Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. My name is OctoMan, and this is the dev stream for Burntime 3D or some kind of that. So, in the last video or in the last live stream, I talked about the concept, about the what the game is going to be about. Today, or in this part, I wanna take a look into what we need to do, what I need to do to actually go forward, and how to go against or go inside the problems we're going to encounter. What do we need to do, and so on and so forth. Pretty quickly, I go to my chart over here, my information video. And what I want to do over there is I want to take a look into these areas I want to create, because based on the concept, I need to decide what I want to start first with. And what I can do over there is I would in the last video I was asking you, what would you create the first one, like what is going to be the main mechanic of the game, and would you go to start. I haven't checked the comments now, but I believe there is none yet, so maybe there are going to become a couple of ones later on. So if I start with a new project over there, I would go and cover the area inside at the very first. Why? Because the main mechanic of the game is walking around this area. Of course, there's another a main part about the world, but the world is only possible to create when we have at least one or multiple areas inside, which we can navigate into and outside. If you have seen my turn-based tutorial system series, there's some things about this interest over here as well. So I had areas inside, I had some kind of a world map, areas where to fight enemies and so on and so forth, and we were able to go inside an area and so on and so forth. So this is a rather old series, but now we're gonna fresh up a bit, so I believe so. So, and I wanna create this so that I have like a point and click movement, point and click stuff. So when I use my mouse, I'm gonna click on an enemy, then I go into this enemy or go into a fight if necessary, or I'm gonna have a possibility to talk to people. So later on we might need to take a look into some kind of a, let's say, text-based, something like a system where we can talk to them, choose what we want to do with them, like wanna do a trade, wanna do just a chat, wanna maybe get some important ideas from these guys, whoever's walking around here over here. How can we hire people and so on and so forth. But that is not so important at the moment. Important is that we now get a character together, just a simple one, maybe a capsule as this one. I'm gonna make sure that I have an area to walk around and click onto a position and go to that. Sorry about that. So what we gonna need to set up is, once again, a capsule or a character. You can use a cube, a box, a cylinder. You can also directly take your 3D character. I go cover this one rather later on, because I want to get the concept down first before I go into models and 3D and all that stuff. I want to get an area first to navigate around. I want to get some buildings onto that, just some cubes, and stack them together, so we have something which we can talk about and actually already test out all the systems we need. We can directly implement the daytime system if we want to. So as you can see, we need to create multiple systems about this. So first we need a daytime system. We're gonna need to have the character itself, a movement, and something where we can navigate around. Before I go and start this, please feel free to check out the description box down below. There is your free PDF to grab from our website. Just check it out. It is my 3 strategies guide to finish your game today or tomorrow. So just check it out. Also, there's some courses listed down below as well. So you might want to learn Battleships 3D or anything else. Just check them out. These courses are going to be available for you as well. Okay, so let's dive into it. I'm gonna lay out some area inside. Doesn't matter how it looks. We want to make sure that everything at least gets anything. So I go into my totally fresh new Unity piece over here. My Unity version is 2K19.18F1. If you have a newer one, no worries. If you have an older one, no worries as well. So you're gonna get the idea behind it, and probably you just need to struggle with items or so on, a bit different. But in the end, you're gonna have the same result, I guess. Okay, so to create an area inside is basically just a location where we, for example, put a plane and put some buildings on top, and then put our character so we can move along onto this. How do we do this? I believe we're gonna go with an F-mesh agent. We later on place our camera like 45 degrees downwards or something like that, like a Diablo style point and click, I would say, but maybe a bit different. So we create a plane and we can start with that. We can instantly put, content onto this. For example, we can put a capsule. So the capsule will basically be maybe our player, and as you can see, it's kind of huge already since it has a height of 1 point, or I believe 2 units in total. Like from this point to this point, it should be 1 unit. This one should be 50. This one should be 50. I'm not quite sure about it, but you can measure this by using a cube. So basically, this can be used as our main character later on. The size in total doesn't really matter, but our 3D models later on, when we are going to switch into the 3D modeling phase, or you're gonna do, or I gonna do, I need to make sure that all the sizes are going to be, kind of close, so they're working as they should. If not, doesn't really matter, because hi Yanni, thanks a lot for tuning in. So for me, it's just important that we have something to navigate around and see how it goes. Good. I would take the plane right now and just increase the size quite a bit. So basically, it doesn't matter how big it is. So this is like the game area where, like the inside area, we want to walk around. We can later on redesign this, but we need to have something to navigate on. And once again, this is going to be the plane, basically the ground plane. We want to make sure that it is like zeroed out, so 0, 0, 0. It doesn't matter if it has to be, but all of that comes together later on. I want to move maybe my player character over here. And as you can see, the camera now looks into this way, so probably I'm gonna bring the camera first here and the player character over there. So later on there will be like an over shoulder. We're gonna put the camera like over here or somewhere, like so it is like looking downwards to the character, so it's like once again a 45 degree or whatever, I don't know yet actually. We can also rotate it by 35 or something, or 25 to this. No, that was the wrong one. Let me make a global rotation. I believe that is a bit better. Basically it doesn't matter. And of course we need to make sure that this one is a bit more far away, so if we are looking downwards to something, I believe the angle is a bit too high. Once again, these are things you don't need to take care of at the very beginning, because you want to just have the clickability, the walkability, and probably a building or two which we can interact with later on. Good, so this capsule, I'm gonna rename this maybe to my player. And later on, the graphics about the player are going to sit as a child object. Maybe I'm gonna directly do this, because otherwise I may have problems. So I create an empty, make the player like this is basically, this capsule is going to be my player graphic, I would say. So it's easier to handle, and we can keep track with the game object directly on the bottom of the screen. And I want to make sure that player graphic is zeroed out on X, Y, and Z. And now we can lift it up in a sec. So I'm gonna make sure that maybe this one is over here in the 0 as well. So we are always at the bottom of our plane. I'm gonna lift it up, snap lift, and we are good to go. If you don't like this this view over here, you can always go and rotate the camera in the screen and then select the camera and say something like, oh, game object align with view. So the camera will now align with the view of whatever we are looking from. As you can see, it was like here, it's looking downwards. Once again, at the moment, the camera is the same unimportant as the other areas as well. Good. So the plane is going to be our ground over here, so I just name it ground, so I later on find it easier. This game object is now going to be our player. Make sure you always stay organized, so later on when you need to find something that I named the player, I can just search for it inside the hierarchy panel if necessary. Good. Next one is I want to create some kind of a building where we can literally just click on. The building doesn't need to be anything but a cube, since currently I'm still in the, let's say, planning or prototyping phase. So I can literally make it as huge and as big and as small, whatever as I like to, just to fit maybe the design or the area of my needs. Later on you can put your runes or any other type of buildings over here. So as you can see, it's just a building graphic because the building inside is going to be another extra area later on. So we hop between two themes or multiple themes later on here as well. So what we can do is we can put multiple, objects around the scene. We can make some brickstones, something. We can, the pickables, we can put them anywhere on the screen. Doesn't really matter actually. So this is going to be like my building. Now I think, okay, how can I basically enter this one later on? I just create another cube, directly inside of that, and this is going to be basically the collision object of my cube. So let me bring this outwards and reset the scale to 111. So what we want to do is later on, for example, I'm gonna make this a bit bigger, maybe a bit broader. So this could be something like the trigger area to enter the building. So we later on just, use on trigger enter on this cube or on our character. So whenever it is like going inside such a cube, then like when we point on it, we go to this position, we collide with that, and then we load the next scene, which is going to be the building, like the inside of this particular building. Then of course I want to make sure that this cube is my collision object. You can collider, whatever. You can also trigger or set this one to be a trigger already. The building itself is going to stay like a collider, so not a trigger, and probably we're gonna set this one later into static so we can actually build the correct nav mesh as well. What we can also do is, before we do anything else, probably create 3, 4, 5 different materials or 2. Which we can pop into the scene so we see stuff better or easier. So we can put something like colors, like brown. You can hit Control D to just duplicate, hit F2 and rename it to be red. And maybe we're gonna rename this one to be blue. So you can see you can be super precise and super quick and just creating things by copying and pasting, just Control D and so on. By the way, if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. I try to cover them here as well. So I'm gonna make this one maybe a darkish green. We're gonna put maybe something like a brown. Once again, I don't cover textures yet because it is not important for this phase. So I'm gonna put maybe a brown ground. Maybe I'm gonna get rid of reflections and specular highlights. So it's rather dull. Maybe we're gonna keep reflections or specular highlights. Well, it doesn't really matter at all as well. So put the red one. The red one couldn't be used for anything, for enemies and such. Maybe this brown is not brown enough. Once again, actually it doesn't matter, but we want to get a feel of a post-apocalyptic thing. What the heck am I doing? No more tutorials. Well, basically you can see this as a tutorial, but as well, I wanted to start something new, Yanni. So literally I go and cover the systems and things you can implement on your own, and probably it's in one or the other dev streams as well. So that's what I'm doing over here. I try a new format over here and see what's going on. Of course, there will be multiple new tutorials later on about probably different topics, but at the moment I think that is not a bad idea over here. So my collider over here, I guess I'm gonna make this one green. My building over here might be a gray or brownish one as well. I'm gonna duplicate blue, or do we just keep blue? I just rename this one to be gray. Whatever, gray doesn't matter, at least not for the moment. So we get a feel about what we're going to create. Maybe I'm gonna make my character blue, like this one. Okay, so we now have a good and basic setup. Yeah, basically this part now is going to be about navigating around. But before we can navigate, we're gonna have something to avoid. So like literally go around and make sure that we only stay in this area, we don't fall downwards. And we're gonna do a point and click area or point and click stuff here as well. So we basically click somewhere with our character, and he is going to move to this position wherever we have clicked. So this is basically this part over here. So once again, if you want to go into an FPS style, you can do the same. Basically, you need to just design that things. You go to a position and then you go into another building and so on. But since I want to have like a point and click game, I would say, with some, let's say, Diablo style, maybe I'm gonna put this over here. I don't know. Once again, I want the stream to be hopefully it is anyhow helpful for people which never ever finished anything and maybe wanna get some idea how to get stuff done, you know? I mean, it's like it can be hard for some people. And for others, this might be super simple, but once again, in the end, you might get an idea behind what you can do and what you should avoid, especially when you are like a small company and so on. Okay. So now we basically have 3 buildings, which we probably can later on enter, and we need to set these guys later on up as well. So we read the information from this particular collider. It's something like, where do we go into? So for example, we're gonna go to this area, and this collider knows, okay, I lead to one specific scene or something like that. Ah, that's not a good one, Yanni. So you basically should go over and finish something at least. And if you need help with that, feel free to grab my free PDF so you get an idea behind my 3 strategies how to get stuff done actually. So what you want to do here is, plan ahead, do everything over there as much as you can so you get things done. So next one is, hey E-Roll, thanks a lot for tuning in. What I now want to do is I want to go into the navigation, and the navigation can create it on multiple things. If we want to make our life easy, we're gonna make use of a navigation mesh. Before I do anything, I gonna save my scene. So, just in case, go into my scenes folder. I'm gonna do this off screen as usual, so nothing fancy over there. I'm gonna name this something like area 1. I don't know, we can rename things later on, or area 001. Because maybe later on there will be multiple areas, different areas, and so on and so forth. Maybe we're gonna reuse them anyhow, so it's easier and better later on to navigate. And also, when we go now to this building, it might be building 005,000, whatever. We want to make sure that all of these have like its own numbers or something like that, so we always know who or what leads to where. Good. Now let's take a look into navigation mesh, and that's probably the best or the easiest one to navigate around over here. So we click somewhere like here, and our character should move to it by looking into the correct direction, do rotations if necessary, and so on and so forth, and probably go over collision objects as well. How do we do this? I'm gonna collapse these things. If you wanna keep your hierarchy rather clean, you can also create empty game objects, just as a small tip. Reset it to 0 even if not necessary. You can give it something like a as you can see, like a little icon where the name is going to be inside. And usually people tend to do something like hashtag environment as an example. What you can do is with all these buildings, as well as the ground plane, if necessary, put them into environment. Because if you later on need to play around with things or enable and disable stuff, you just disable the complete environment and everything is gone. So if you have like multiple stones, hundreds of 3D objects, you don't want to have them fully in your hierarchy. So keep that in mind as well. Good. Navigation mesh baking is rather simple. Everything which is marked as a static object is going to be not baked, I guess. So let's take a look into this. I believe we need to go to... Oh no, they need to be called navigation static. So we take this buildings over here. We do not take the environment. And we need to go over here. As you can see, there is this navigation static. We need to click this, and we only want to have this on the buildings. We don't want to have this collision objects here to be navigation static. Why? Because we want to collide with them later on, like with using the trigger. So we want to make sure that we are actually able to hit this particular area, of course. Good. Now we have this out of the way, we now want to bake this. So this is going to be the ground where I want to bake all of that content. I believe This bottom over here needs to be navigation static as well, I guess. But yeah, let's activate this here as well. And now I go to, where do I go to? I guess window. I don't know where it is. We need to find it. Probably AI navigation. So, and what we can now do is that every specific area in our mesh or in our scene can be tagged as something like walkable. So our current plane over here is going to be walkable. And then we're going to have the options over here. And meaning we can bake now our navigation mesh. We can do some settings like what is the agent's radius. So when this is going to be later on an agent or any other roaming around enemies or just usual players or merchant or whoever, we want to make sure that these have a different or maybe all the same settings. When I now press bake, we're gonna see something funny. It's going to be this bluish area over here. You can only see this when this navigation mesh is going to be, enabled. And we're gonna see that on this, or this particular mesh now is baked so that there is a distance to the buildings itself, so we cannot collide them. That is where the agent radius comes in place. If we make it smaller, I believe we're gonna have, a closer place over here. Let's test it out. I'm gonna reduce it to 0.2 and bake again, and you can see now the distance to the two buildings is going to be a bit smaller. We want to make it so that it's probably taking 0.5. We rebake. And so we have enough space between the building itself. And also you can see we are still able to hit this collision objects. If we don't, like when we are not going too close, we can also go and increase the size later on if necessary. So we want to make sure that we are able to anyhow walk to the point over there. Good. What we want to make sure that these 4 buildings are not walkable because we don't want to go on top of these. So we go to object and set these to be not walkable, and we do not want to apply this, and we need to rebake. So as you can see now, we are not able to hit or to go up onto the roof because it's not necessary for us, right? And since we now have everything about the navigation mesh done over here, we can also see something other funny over here. There is, probably we can see this on the side view and in isometric, there's like a small distance between the actual 0. When we see, probably you cannot see this, there's the grid, and there's a slight distance between the actual navigation mesh and the actual ground. Usually it's something like a 0.08, and we want to make sure that we later on encounter or get rid of this little distance, so the shadows of our player, for example, will not fly around on the, anywhere. Good. With that out of the way, I got outside of isometric view again, so we can continue now with the navigation. Like we want to have something onto our player to navigate onto this navigation mesh. And to do so, we're gonna make sure that we have our basic character, so not the player graphic. We need to have the player over here. We want to create 2 things. The first one is I believe it's called navigation mesh agent, this one. So a nav mesh agent, as you can see, it has a standard height of our humanoid agent type. We have a base offset. This offset, by the way, is the offset from the ground, as I said before. We're gonna, I believe so, we need to negate this one by minus 0.08 or something. If that doesn't work, we're gonna change it later on. Then we have something like a speed, angular speed, acceleration, and so on. We're gonna play around with these numbers whenever we are done with clicking around. And now we wanna go into this and try to figure how we can actually, move this guy. And to do so, we need to have a script which is taking care of all this movement, right? So we're gonna say something like player. Actually, we wanna create a new script called player movement. Or maybe player behavior, because we may not have everything on separated behavior like this. We might want to have like attacking and stuff like that already also to the script. When we are creating scripts like that, they usually end up in our assets folder. But since we want to keep our hierarchy clean and our project clean, we create a new folder with scripts. And we want to make sure that the player behavior script is of course part of scripts. We're gonna have these materials over here, which we also can put into some kind of a materials folder. Once again, we want to keep everything organized. This is important also when you're working later on for companies and stuff like that. You want to make sure that everything is clean, everything has its correct name. When you go into the scenes folder, you now see there's an area 001 folder. Inside you're gonna find the baked nav mesh. So just so you know why this is actually over there, this is important. This is also when you try to bake a mesh, you are probably not able to, because there are problems with whenever the scene has not been saved, then it cannot save the actual baked navigation mesh. Just keep that in mind as well. Good. So far, any questions? If you have any, feel free to send them inside the chat. We're gonna cover now, or I'm gonna cover now, or I guess we go into the player behavior now to move our character by point and click onto our navigation mesh. So I'm gonna open mine in MonoDevelop, Visual Studio, whatever you are using. I use MonoDevelop, a pretty strange version of that. Doesn't matter actually, as long as it works, right? So we can double click on this gray name. We can double click on anything else, like onto the script name directly. I'm gonna wait for my firewall to pop up twice, and once that is done, I go or I'm able to work with that build. There we go. Probably that's the third time coming up. So my mono behavior should turn blue, as well as the player behavior. There we go. Gonna maximize that. Okay, first off, I get rid of the update loop, I guess. Well, we're gonna I'm gonna put content into scripts always whenever I need them, or most of the time when I need them. So, yeah, that's what we're gonna put over here. So, what do we need is actually we need to have something like a target where we can place. Well, maybe we're gonna make use of the update loop, because we might want to use a ray cast, which we are shooting down onto the ground, so we know where we actually go to. So let's create a void update loop, just in case. Maybe we're gonna change this later on to something else, but at the moment, once again, whenever we do any kind of inputs, we want to make sure that we can interact with things. So what we want to do is we want to shoot a ray downwards onto a position, then we can store the position and say the nav mesh to go to this position. Good, I guess. So, and to have this position, we need to store it somewhere. We can store it in a transform. We can store it into a, what shall I say, in a vector. We can have multiple possibilities over there. Also, there are some things we need to take in consideration later on. Meanwhile, navigating on a navigation mesh. So, let's do the very first one. We want to do some input, right? So, if we are doing an input dot get mouse button down, and I want to use maybe the left key. We can also use the right key, doesn't matter. When I now click onto a position, I want to shoot a raycast to that position from the camera, and want to make sure that I store this information wherever I hit, and store this anywhere and see what I hit. If I hit the ground, I want to walk to the ground. If I hit an enemy, I want to go to the enemy and do different things. Okay. So what we want to do now is we're gonna be able to create the ray, and our name is ray, and it's equal to, and now it's going to be a what do? We're gonna shoot a ray to our main camera, so camera.main.screen point to ray, and where do we want to shoot this to is to our input.mouse position, like so. So what we do is from our current screen position, we shoot a ray downwards into the direction of the mouse position from our main camera. It needs to be tagged as being a main camera, otherwise we cannot store this info. Then we create a raycast hit, just name it hit. So it stores just where we hit and what we hit, so we can actually do the physics check over here. So in that case, we can do something like if physics dot raycast. And now we just need to define what we're gonna do. First, we're gonna shoot our ray, into a direction. We defined the direction and stuff like that already. Then we want to make sure that we say out hit. Out is a special keyword over here for raycasting. And now we can define something like a distance. If we want to, we can also define a layer to shoot into. That completely does not really matter over here. I'm gonna check the chat if there's something new. Hi Oscar, sorry I couldn't take the call because, well, you see I'm streaming over here, so still thanks a lot for tuning in. Yeah, maybe vector is not necessary, that's right, Yanni, so probably we're gonna take just a transform and store the information inside the transform. It basically, once again, it doesn't matter. Of course, we can feed this info into it, but maybe on a long run we want to store it somewhere. I don't know, maybe we can just, get rid of that, because it can be intersected. Okay, yeah, Oscar, that's happening. Yeah, sometimes I decided to do twice. Well, we don't really need to see this ray, Yanni, so, well, we don't need this. It's just not necessary, I would say, because we know where we hit whenever we, store this information. We can also create an empty game object and to, put it somewhere, or we can create a prefab onto this, or we're gonna see this anyways whenever we move this character along, right? So it doesn't really, or it's not really necessary at this point already. So what we now can do is we can put this, the transform we hit, like from wherever we hit, we can put this and store this anywhere. So something like we create a transform, maybe call this one target or something like that. So we can feed the whatever we hit inside that and just store this for a couple of seconds or minutes or whatever. We can override it anytime. Maybe we need this because we want to point into a direction later on where we click on an enemy, we want to face him or this particular target to do our attacks, for example, and so on. So we can do something like massf.infinity as the ray length if necessary, but usually it shouldn't be necessary. Once again, we can also avoid layers to check, so probably like a building layer that we want to avoid and do not want to cover in this case. So whenever we hit something, we want to say, okay, we found the target, whatever the target is, and now we want to check what kind of target did we hit so we can actually move along. So what we can do is we can directly go to this position. So, or we, it depends on how we actually build this one up, and we can start the actual movement to the position where we actually have clicked. Like we're gonna pick our navigation mesh agent, and to do so, we're gonna have to store the nav mesh agent somewhere. And as you can see, if I type nav mesh agent here, I cannot do this because we're gonna make use of the namespace using a Unity engine. .ai. So AI stands for the actual navigation mesh component, so we need this. As you can see, we can now grab any kind of a nav mesh parts. We need to have the nav mesh agent. We can name it agent, and this agent, this agent is going to be wrongly written. This agent is going to be, or we need to grab it at start. So agent is equal to get component, open close parentheses, nav mesh agent. So we grab this at start, so we have the connection to our nav mesh at the very beginning here as well. So whenever we have that, we can now take the agent and send it to any position we like to, as an example. And also we can check for the ground. So if we have checked an enemy, or if we don't have checked an enemy, so once again there, or whoever we are talking to, we're gonna do all of this navigation things over here. Maybe I'm gonna put another function here, which we're gonna call maybe move. So later on we're gonna do the movement, movement separately, and maybe the attack later on separately as well. So we do some if-else things, like maybe gonna check if we have hit an enemy or not. If we not have hit an enemy but something else, we want to make sure that we are actually able to navigate to this point, and so on and so forth. So and to move our guy, I'm gonna comment this out just for a sec. to move our guy over here, we're gonna have to set the NavMesh agent's destination. So basically we can do something like, if we have set any kind of a target, then we break out of it or something like that, I don't know. But when we are going inside this movement over here, we're gonna set our NavMesh agent dot, and now we have the possibility, I guess so, to put a destination. But not this way. We need to talk to the agent directly, of course. So agent dot destination, and we can set this one to be equal to our target, so whatever the target is. And this is of type transform, so we should be able to bring this here, but it requests a vector, so we need to take target dot position. So now you can see we could also work with a vector, so we just actually you know, that this maybe not is in transform, but like a vector. Basically, it doesn't matter. We want to make sure that all of that works, of course, later on here. So now we can set our agent's destination to be equal to the target, so we can, or we should be able to anyhow, call move whenever we hit something. For example, I don't know what's happening, so let's test it out. Probably something is pretty strange. Maybe something is happening, maybe nothing is happening. So whenever the compiler is done running, we probably get something. And we're gonna have a speed already at this point. So I'm gonna press play and see what's going on. Maybe there's some strange behavior now going to happen. So when I click anywhere, I get a null reference exception over here. So what do we try to access is standing in line 32 of the update loop. No, of this. So our agent cannot basically go to this position, it seems. So we might need to have a connection to the actual NavMesh anyhow. So let's take a look. That's funny. Why can't we just access that port? Yeah, we got the baked NavMesh over here. We have this in our navigation bake. So let's take a look why that doesn't act over here. Area mask is mixed. Okay. So we can take a look into multiple things, but why do we get a null reference exception over here? Guys, if you have any issues, or if you have any things, or if you want to help me, of course, feel free to join me in here and let me know what you think about it. So we want to have auto traverse mesh link, we want to auto repass, yes. High quality obstacle avoidance, that's what we want to have here as well. We want to have auto brake. The stop distance might be different later on, so we might need to change this later on by code. But why can't we move along? Maybe I forgot something code-wise. I'm not quite sure. So let's take a look into this. So whenever we hit something, we want to do an actual move. So probably the move can only happen when, you know, at the moment we perform the move only when we are doing this. So in that case, we probably need to get the move outside of the actual input, because we only click once just for a couple, like just a millisecond, and we want to make sure that move is basically performed the whole time, I guess, or whenever it has been clicked. So maybe we're gonna put the movement later on in a coroutine or something, so we do not perform this like the whole time. And what we maybe also want to do is, if there is like a no target, or the distance to the target is smaller than x, then we're gonna stop this. But let me put something like, if a target is actually no, or yeah, if it is null, maybe that doesn't really work, but we're gonna need to do it a bit different. Then we wanna return here, just in case. Maybe we don't need this, but we'll see. So let's press play and see what's going on now. I click anywhere, nothing happens. I don't get anything. Let's take a look into if target. Let me get rid of that. Toggle, save, and try again. Now reference exception. Maybe we need to grab this and awake. I don't think so, but well, probably. Okay, so I believe something is missing, but I'm not quite sure which one. Oh, let's see, guys. Yeah, I'm silly, absolutely. You didn't give a destination. Why? I did. I Yeah, that's true. Absolutely. Of course, I need to, of course, set the target dot position to be, or no, I'm gonna do it different. I'm gonna say target is equal to hit dot transform, right? To hit dot transform. Yeah, sometimes you don't see the woods in front of the, Let's take a look. Maybe you are right, maybe you're not. We'll see. But we should still get the null reference exception, and nobody knows why. It doesn't let me go outside of this error, so I believe there is more to it. So something like the nav mesh to go onto, I don't know. Maybe I need to put this anywhere. If it doesn't work, yeah, of course, but once again, I get a null reference exception over here, so somehow I seem to forgot something. Let's see, maybe it's a component I forgot. Nav mesh obstacle, nope. That's not what I need. No, transform does not need an empty game object. Well, not usually. I just store the hit inside this transform, so it doesn't matter. So I believe there's something missing. So it says in 29 is calling move, and it's saying that the agent destination is equal to the target's position. So what did I miss? I don't know. Maybe we need to implement something like the remaining distance, or maybe I need to set the target to be the player target at the first place. Maybe we need to get something else over here. Let's take a look. I don't know. Maybe we need to do something like agent dot is stopped is equal to false, so we are actually able to move it. And maybe we do another check before we do the actual movement over here. So if the agent dot remaining distance is smaller or equal the agent's stop distance or stopping distance, maybe we need to implement this over here as well, so we can do the actual walk and put the movement over here. So we only perform this when our remaining distance, like the destination distance to the stopping distance, maybe that needs to be inside. But once again, it seems that I missed some other component or something like that. Maybe there's something different. Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe it's about the vectors, but I guess not. Is target the whole time? No, yeah, probably. The question is, what does the compiler tell me? As you can see in line 32, we trigger that. Line 32 is going to give us the move, or I want to perform move. I'm gonna give the agent the destination to be the target position. So if you are right and the target's transform cannot be used as that, we probably need to create a vector. Might possible. But maybe we are not, because we override the target. Maybe we're gonna do some, well, we can't even put this into this point. So this target, yeah, maybe the target dot position is no position in world space. That could be. Let's try. I don't think that does make any difference, but yeah, let's try. So we're gonna do something like hit.transform.position. So our target position is going to be now the hit transform.position, and now here we just say target. Maybe you are right, maybe not, we'll see. Yeah, in the past, that wasn't necessary to create those transform first, so like creating this one at the first place. But you're right. So our navigation mesh agent now gone through or to the 0, 0 position of the world, because vector 3 was 0. It was done, it has done this automatically. So now our player is, well, it's not even on 0, 0, 0. It is on 0, 16, 0. And the 16 is going to be whatever. So when I now click here, I should be able to move to this point, but it's not reacting to it. So now he gone into minus 132. So this is also not the world center over there. So what's going on or what's wrong here? Maybe at start we're gonna need to set our target to be equal to transform dot position. Maybe that doesn't work because, oh, that might work. So we are not walking at the first place. So we are at this point, and when I now click here, okay, so we don't get the correct hit target over here, it seems. So whatever we hit, it's not taking the correct position, it seems. At least not where we hit. Maybe we're gonna do the debug line, but what's going on here? Let's see. Let me try to walk here. Nope, it's always going to the center of the screen or of my plane and not navigating to the correct position over there. So maybe we need to fill the info in a bit different. Let's take a look. That's interesting. So the actual destination is going to be the target's destination. But somehow it seems that the raycast does not take the real position where we actually do the hit. And that's what I wonder why that is the case. Maybe it's not the hit transform, maybe it's the hit dot point. Is there a point? Let's see. It's also of type vector 3, so wherever we hit now with our raycast, that should be the destination, right? Otherwise, it's taking the transform of the plane. Haha, there we go. So now we are actually able to move to the mouse position where we are. No, not screen to world point. That doesn't make sense. We need to cast a ray, so that's why we take the ray cast position. So we have like the ray is like constantly looking to the mouse position from the camera. So when I now want to go behind the building over here, if that is even possible, then you can see it is actually able to do this. So screen point to ray. There's one more thing I don't like, is I want to make sure that I'm able to interrupt the actual movement. So basically to override it. So it's not, doing this the whole time. I want to click freely wherever I want to go to. So I don't really, I want to override this destination basically. And so because the point is we only do the movement whenever the remaining distance is smaller than the stopping distance. So probably that is a bad decision to have this here. If I do take this outside, probably we can make use of that in another case, like when we are activating booleans for animations later on. So I keep this in just in case. And but what we want to do is in move something like we basically do this. So if the destination basically has been reached, that we are setting the agent stopped to be equal to true. So we stop the agent so it's not trying to move like constantly all the whole time, whatever. So if the remaining distance now is bigger or equal, or bigger, no, it's not bigger. If it is like smaller or equal, the agent's stopping distance, so we want to set agent stopped is equal to true, I guess. And once again, we want to override the target's point over here. So we want to move like constantly, but we want to do it like by using the agent is stop to be true or false or whatever. And maybe that now gives us a bit more free space, like a free, walking around over here. So I can go here, but I can also decide, meanwhile I walk, I go to another point, another position. That's what I wanted to achieve. So the speed seems to be a bit small. The acceleration is also kind of small. Maybe I'm gonna do something like 100. The stopping distance is the one we can probably later on put, depending on what we are clicking, a bit different to each object. Or something like that, depending on what we have hit it or what we were hitting. Maybe the speed is also a bit small. Maybe you're gonna do it 8 or 10. And the angular speed, like how fast it goes around an angle, might be a bit different. That seems to be quite okay-ish. Maybe a bit too fast. Maybe I'm gonna go away with a 6 or something. Later on, when you go into 3D animations and so on and so forth, you want to make sure that the animations are playing the same speed as we are moving along. So, nice. Meanwhile, I'm walking over here. I have no issue, but when I click a second time, sometimes it seems not to work. Like now I clicked, but it didn't react that fully. Now same. Maybe we're gonna get rid of this is agent is stop thing, just in case, and try this out. So we try constantly moving that or to this point. Maybe there we can once again make a reuse of this or that line of code. Because I want to make sure that I have like no issue, like I want to have really a free movement over here, and this now seems to work better. So the agent is stopped functionality might come in place a bit later on. Good. we have the main movement. We can now freely move along, and we can now also say we can basically trigger that thing over there. Like when we go into one of these, things that we are able to do stuff. Also later on when we have pickups, we gonna maybe tag them like an item or pickup or whatever, then we gonna trigger other things. Like when we go and click on this, that we are opening a user interface, we disable the movement and so on and so forth. We wanna make sure that we can, pick stuff up, drag them into the inventory when we got some, and so on and so forth. So as you can see, sometimes it, stuff is a bit troublesome, but in the end, we gonna got it to work. So we are now able to freely walk onto our navigation mesh agent, on the nav mesh itself. We can also put like height inside it. You can use terrain if you want to, and model around over there. Make sure that the slope angle is not too high, or at least that the actual agent over here has a high enough slope. Same for step height. Just keep that in mind, that the step height and so on are going to be high enough so he's able to, travel stairs up or whatever it has to be when there are mountains or other things, that you're gonna make sure that the agent, like our character later on, is going to perform this completely over here. Guys, do you have any questions? Because I guess for today I'm done with that part over here. We did quite some good work and good process. So if you have any questions, it's time to, shoot them in right now into the chat box. What will be in the next step? Depending on what is the most important thing next. What do you think? Because we covered how we want to move along, like inside this areas inside, and as you can see, we have quite some other stuff to do, like based on my little sheet over here. So probably we want to make sure that we can enter like any building, for example. That can be the next step, which is rather simple. We can also take a look into interactions. How can we interact like with any pickables? How to interact with other guys or other enemies staying around. We can also already start with daytime, even if that is not really important right now. So the next step could be pick up things, interact in general with anything, enter any buildings, or leaving an area. But leaving an area is going to be a bit special over here. We are not like hitting on or going onto a specific point. So I would say one of these. Interaction in general. Cancel moving. Basically, you don't really cancel that because I want to make it so that, let's assume that's me, and I want to pick this one up. I need to go to the object anyhow, close to it, so I can basically do the actual interaction. Same for the door. If I click on the door or anywhere on this, I need to go there first. So I do not cancel any object or anything. Same for interaction with enemies or guys or warriors or merchants. I gonna go or need to go rather close to this guy before I can do any attack or any other interaction. Same if I want to chat with a merchant, I need to go to this. I do not want to cancel this out because when I go here, I also gonna later on have some possibility to drop items onto the ground like this one, but maybe later on they're going to get destroyed. Will the main map be based on nodes and edges? Well, nodes maybe. The idea behind it is just have some icon or some button, some image or something like that. So it's not really a node. Well, yeah, it can be a node system because we need to have connections between special nodes. So yeah, maybe kind of. So there's just a script which says this is connected to this, or not is connected to this, but not to this. So we are not able to go to that. So yeah, basically it's kind of a node. Well, edges, you can design that however you want to. We can probably put some line renderer or maybe a trail renderer or something in here, which is constantly getting casted. But I believe a line renderer would be kind of okayish. I'm not quite sure if I even would do this into 3D or 2D. No, do not mess with the red dot, of course. Um, yeah, so as you can see, there are multiple possibilities, and I'm not quite sure where we go. But in the end, yeah, we're gonna have some kind of different systems which we need to manage in between that. So whenever we click on this, or when we are like positioned on this one, for example, that we just get some kind of a small interface where we can, or like a pop-up or something where we can say enter this area or end the day. So we are actually able to end the day cycle, and so we eat once, we drink once, and so on and so forth. So as you can see, there are hundreds of thousands of possibilities, and of course everybody on his own is going to be responsible for that content on their own. So I believe next one will be entering buildings, interaction in general, so we can interact with multiple things, whatever it is. So we're gonna take a look into inheritance a bit, I guess. So yeah, and then we just do the interactions. We overwrite the actual inherited objects and so on and so forth, and that's basically everything, I guess. Yeah. And yeah, we need to later on also find a way to store all this information. Who do we actually place where? Like maybe by using some kind of an ID system or something. I haven't figured out everything I want to do here, but yeah, if we got this done over here, we probably go into the next phase from that, depending on what I think is going to be the next thing. Probably when we are able to pick things up, the next step might be the inventory to handle. And of course, the daytime. Maybe we create some images over here or like icons for our guys, and so on and so forth. We want to get one thing first done, anyhow, like one mechanic at a time or something like that. Any more questions? Then now is the chance. Oh, and by the way, we also take a look later on onto the camera. So as you can see, the camera currently doesn't follow up. We might want to create some kind of, let's say, follow-up script, so where the camera is like always going to be like behind the character or something like that. Maybe we're gonna do some rotation, but usually I would not recommend this. I guess. So maybe we might be just from this view, so we can also keep it fixed, or we can do a mechanic then whenever we hit like one of these borders over here, like in the old RTS games, for example, or the newer ones are going to work about the same, that whenever we are going with the mouse onto one of the borders, that we are moving the camera like freely or not related directly to our main character. Once again, we have got so many possibilities over here, and yeah, all of that comes like in the process, right? So no more questions. Guys, thanks a lot for tuning in. I hope you have learned quite some things over here. Maybe you now understand why it is so important to plan things ahead, think about them, and try to increase knowledge over time. Ask other people, interact with them, see what's going on. Thanks a lot, Yanni. I'm glad you enjoyed this one. And yeah, take care, guys. And I hope to see you in the next live stream. I'm not quite sure when I will post this, but probably, yeah, in the next couple of days. Maybe I'm gonna do another one today, but we'll see. I'm not quite sure about it. But once again, yeah, if you haven't yet followed or subscribed to my channel, please do so. Also, don't forget to check out the description box where my free PDF, how to create, or 3 strategies to create your game today or finish your game today or even tomorrow. Once again, thanks a lot for tuning in for all the other guys. Also, check out all my video courses I have about different game styles and so on and so forth. They're accessible inside the description box down below as well. Once again, if you have any questions, write them down into the comments. And once again, take care and have a nice day and weekend. Bye bye, guys and girls.